Hello, everyone. Welcome back to GameSpot's E3 stage. I'm Mike Mahardy here with Lucy James.
Hey.
And we are here with Sony Bend. I'm here with John Garvin and Jeff Ross from the studio making Days Gone. How you guys doing?
Good.
How's the show going so far?
Awesome. Had a really good show so far.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, so, I think it was last month maybe you were showing off a ton of gameplay with the game. I know, like, Game Informer was showing off a lot of the coverage, and I got to watch a lot of that. Well, what's it like showing it off at E3?
It's really cool because it's actually live and playable here for in the press room. But we've got two pieces of content that we're playing. One of them features the Horde that we showed 2 years ago, and it's fully playable. It's running at a great frame rate. The world looks gorgeous, and people are dying, and some people are surviving, and they're enjoying every bit of it. So it's pretty cool.
So what is the demo you're showing on the floor? Or what can people do in the demo that you have on the floor?
So we have a couple of demos. We have the Horde demo, and we also have the Crazy Willie's demo. So it's basically this mission where Deacon and Boozer have to get a bike part for Deacon, and they stop by this infested truck stop. And if you saw it last month, because the Game Informer guys played it there, you watch this version of it again. Like Jeff said, the performance is 100% improved. We're targeting 30 frames a second. We've hit that for the PS4 Pro and the PS4. So for that and the Horde demo. So pretty excited to have people play it because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious, as a zombie game, right? Like, it's funny, I feel like there was a few years where there weren't as many zombie games, but then all of a sudden they come back. There's Dying Light 2 is at the show. You guys are at the show. State of Decay 2 just released. Then you have They Are Billions, the RTS. Like, I don't know, is there, like, something you can attribute that, like, why do you think that these zombie games are making such a comeback? I mean, if they even ever went anywhere.
Well, yeah, our game is not just about freakers. We do have a dynamically populated world that responds to the way the players play, and it's a bunch of survivors, a bunch of humans and creatures, animals that have survived and changed. They're all alive. They all actively hunt meat that's, they're not looking for brains, and it's freakers. It's human beings are kind of like one of our nastier enemies. We've got our massive hordes that roam the landscape. We've got animals, and we've got infected animals. All these people are somewhere in the food chain, and they're kind of fighting to survive. And so we don't consider ourselves just a game like that anymore.
Sure.
Well, the freakers themselves, I think, are kind of unique to us because they're living beings.
Yeah.
They're not the undead. And they have a day-night cycle. They need to hibernate. They need to eat. They need to drink. And you can learn their patterns. Right. So you learn which types of freakers, where they live, why they live there. And like Jeff said, the virus, the pandemic that killed the world, infects more than just human beings. And you can see all sorts of infected animals in the world. They all present unique challenges. And for us, it was like we wanted to build an open world game that was dangerous. And to have it be constantly dangerous, it has to be more than just marauders and rippers and animals. So you need like a constant threat. And so that's one of the things I think that makes Days Gone unique is that the world itself is always out to get you. And no matter what you're trying to do, you're in danger of dying.
Does that not present a kind of moral quandary as you're playing? Because if the freakers are still alive, like I guess when you consider zombies, you're like, oh, they're dead. Like it's not really any skin off my nose to kill them, but a freaker, they're kind of maybe still in there?
No, they're not at all. So,
not at all.
No,
okay.
no.
Guilt
So
free.
they're feral, they're cannibalistic, and you learn actually during the course of the game, you learn what happened, and you kind of learn how they got to be that way, and what the virus is doing to them. So that's one of the things the player is going to discover as they play.
Okay, so we're playing as Deacon St. John.
Yes.
How does he find himself in this situation? What's his backstory, and how is he going to cope with the hordes that's coming after him?
Again, that's one of the things that we're hoping the player discovers. So we haven't talked a lot about the story, but I can tell you this much. It's from the trailers we've already revealed. You can see the Deacon is a broken man. He was a member of an outlaw MC. His only friend, his brother, basically, Boozer, is survived with him. And the two have had to rely on each other from the beginning of the apocalypse. So you learn what happened before. You learn how he got to be this way, how he got to be so broken. He lost someone, and like Jeff says, everybody loses somebody in an apocalypse, and everybody deals with it differently. And so one of the things we really wanted to explore was, how would you deal with it? So that's why we wanted to keep the world as realistic as possible and relatable as possible, and the character, I think, is relatable as possible.
Well, one thing I want to add about it is there's a reason that Deacon is our hero. It's not just a random choice. This guy was perfectly suited to survive the apocalypse,
right.
And this is why we're telling his story, because we've got a broken road where it's destroyed, it's eroding at this point, but there's traffic jams galore, and that's where everybody died. And Deacon is a guy who never went to the authorities, he never needed their help. And he had his motorcycle. So when the roads were choked off and hordes were eating people stuck in traffic jams, he was able to split lanes and get the hell out and go off-road. And that's kind of what makes him the perfect survivor and the perfect protagonist for this game.
Plus, he's good with a baseball bat, right? And like I said, the whole thing about brotherhood. So, you think of outlaw bikers, you think, okay, these guys are really violent, they're criminals, but they also have this, this love of the open road, and this sense of brotherhood with each other, a sense of loyalty that's pretty hard to match anywhere else.
And obviously the bike plays a huge part, not only in terms of the story, but in terms of the gameplay. Can you talk a little bit more about having to refuel a bike and maintaining it and what that brings to the gameplay?
So we really wanted to capture, I think when we talk about why are apocalyptic games so popular, I think it's because people, they feel like they've got what it takes to survive. I mean, who really wants to, but we feel if we're pressed, we could do it. And so we wanted to capture a survival element of this type of genre, but we wanted the game to be kind of up pace and upbeat and kind of not be bogged down in a bunch of searching for food and water for the player. But it really kind of made a lot of sense to just move those elements to the bike, and just by having to maintain fuel, I can't think of any game that's really done that. There might have been a couple, but I can't even think of those. It's counterintuitive, but it feels right. It's like when you're buying this game, the players want the fantasy of being in the apocalypse, and the bike is what reminds them that they're real, that the world is relatable. And it leads to some great moments, because the bike is Deacon's advantage, like I talked about earlier. And anytime he has to go without it, the world becomes extremely even more dangerous than it was before, because now he's back to where all the other survivors were, and he's got to scrounge and scavenge to find that gas. It leads to really great emergent moments of fear and danger and risk. And the bike is
like another character.
It's like another character, but the functionality in this mission right here, on the back of his bike, he's got a fully upgraded set of saddlebags where he can carry extra ammo into the field, whereas before he'd really have to scavenge for a few bullets here or there. And when he's taking on a horde of 250 or more, it kind of helps to have a lot of extra ammo. So when you need to top off, go back to your bike if you can't find it in the environment. So it is a personality in the story, but as far as the gameplay progression systems go, it's also a huge personality.
Can you talk about some of the things you've done with this open world to make it feel constantly dangerous, threatening?
Yeah, ambushes I think is my favorite.
So in the trailer we just dropped, they have you see Deacon is riding down the road and he gets hit by sniper fire.
Yeah.
And we've shown clotheslining and there's all sorts of booby traps that the marauders will lay out for you. So one of the things we really want to do is make the roads dangerous. So you can take on the ambush camps, and if you clear them out in a given area, it will make the roads actually safer. So it's one of the ways we get the player to engage in the open world and try to make it a safer place.
Okay, and then there's animals.
And then animals, right? So you have animals that can run faster than you, so the freaker wolves.
They can knock you off, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with the crows, which we just introduced, which we call criers. They can bombard you, and you want to try to avoid them when you're riding through the world.
So, I mean, Days Gone is the first big major release you guys have had since you did Golden Abyss on the Vita. What's it like, moving from a game from the Vita on a franchise that was, created by another studio and coming out with something of your own?
It's amazing. It's been since Siphon Filter 1 was our last new IP. And that's been a few years ago. So, and it's just amazing to be able to work on this platform with having these kinds of production values and in a team of creative people. So we went from working I think it was 50 people that did Golden Abyss, and we're now at 130. And everybody just really, really contributes at a super high level, because that's still pretty small compared to other studios. And I think it makes it a lot of fun to work on the game.
Absolutely, it's in addition to the new IP, just creating the new gameplay paradigm for it has been, it's been a challenge and it's been thrilling, and because that's been a journey unto itself. But yeah, it's been a long time since Golden Abyss, right?
Yeah.
And, it is cool to have something almost ready to come out, and so we're thrilled about that part of it as well.
How do you go about creating a feedback loop in terms of the gameplay where, you want to get out and explore, you want to have a fight, but then you kind of want to dial down the intensity a bit. How do you go about kind of perfecting that and implementing it in an open world?
Pacing is huge in a game like this, where there's a fine line between getting ambushed too many times and not enough. If not enough, obviously the world doesn't feel threatening. And if you do it too much, then all of a sudden it loses its impact. So we've kind of developed some systems to kind of help deliberately intentional pacing systems. We built the tuning for it's ongoing to get it right. A game like this is so massive that you just have to play it for really long loops to kind of appreciate it. To appreciate that pacing. And
that's the key, dude. It's like we have play tests all the time.
Right.
So we bring 20 players in as a group, and they play the entire game. And we record all their metrics. We videotape them playing, and then that's the only way you can really know is just how. You can't even ask them questions. You really have to watch them play and see, okay, they're frustrated, or they're having fun here, or they really enjoyed that. And that's the only way you can really tune an experience like this is by playing it.
Right. And I know, when developers are focused on their own games, it's very difficult to, keep your eyes on all the games coming out around you. And I know it can tend to be very, laser focused. But what kind of, are there any games that you guys have specifically been heavily inspired by in recent years that have been contributing to Days Gone?
Definitely God of War is an amazing game. I think Santa Monica Studio did an amazing job with that. So that was a lot of fun. It was awesome to see the success that it's had as well. So super impressed by that.
And then what about other types of media? I mean, you said, Freakers, you're setting yourself apart with with the Freakers and the story that you're going to be telling. But are there any specific movies, anything that actually really play into this?
Huge fan of The Walking Dead, so I read the comics, watch the TV series. I used to watch Fear the Walking Dead. I haven't really kind of kept up with that, unfortunately.
Okay, you and me both.
So obviously you got Sam Witwer in playing Deacon St. John. What was the casting process behind getting him involved?
I'm sorry?
What was the casting process like to get Sam Witwer involved?
Oh, so we cast him very early on because we wanted to do a digital double.
Right.
So the three main characters in the game, you've seen two of them. They were all digital doubles, and and so he has that chiseled look that we were looking for. He's believable in the part.
Well, John, I think actually most importantly, we weren't Sam Witwer fans. I don't even know who he was, but I remember looking at his audition tape and saying, "Hey, this is the first one who we saw who actually can act and listens and responds." And he turned out to be handsome and chiseled, like John points out, and pretty accomplished and a fan favorite. But we cast him pretty organically, just based on the merits.
Well, I knew who he was, but I hadn't, but I wasn't a fan,
Right.
The way he's got a lot of fans. But he's really super talented. And if you didn't know, he's also a huge gamer. So that really helped that he's involved in the process and is super curious about it. And let me tell you, the number of hours we spent on the mocap stage and in the VO booth, you have to be dedicated to do that because it's really hard on your vocal cords. And the guy's a trooper.
I want to get your take. I'm always curious. It seems like survival is a growing trend in games. I mean, even more so than the last few years. I mean, Fallout 76 is focusing on it, and it seems like it's almost maybe the next big thing, to be a little bit reductive. But I'm curious, from your point of view, making Days Gone in a game that has a very perilous world, almost the whole time, sounds like what you're aiming for. What is it about survival games that games based around survival and dangerous worlds that makes them so appealing?
Well, it's like Jeff said earlier, it's a fantasy. It's I think everybody has that fantasy. It's God, if the asteroid hits tomorrow and the world is decimated, what am I going to do? And I think everybody, so it's a very, very popular fantasy, and I think being able to explore that interactively is amazing. So, and it's you can test yourself.
Yeah, and I call it action survival. Again, where we kind of want to do it as gamers, but we don't want to get bogged down with all that minutia. So I think that there's definitely hardcore survival. We are trying to kind of forge this action survival tier of the survival genre in general, where it's a taste of it. It's on the bike. It keeps it grounded and relatable. And I think that it does kind of come back to that. Is we want games that we can relate to a lot more. I mean, the better they look. The greater the graphics are becoming, it is kind of beckoning mechanics that feel a little bit more realistic than conventional things we've been getting away with, frankly, for the last 20, 30 years.
And like in our case, we call it the broken road. So all the highways, the bridges have been destroyed. The highways have, gone without maintenance for a couple of years. And if you've ever been to Central Oregon, that's like, wow, that's really horrible because it gets super cold and it gets super hot, and then everything just cracks up, and it's amazing. Way more fun to ride your bike on that than it is just riding down the straight highway. So you have jumps in the world that have been created by pieces of asphalt that have sort of shifted up, and it's all organic, and it's just fun to be in, and it looks really, really interesting. It's like the thing about a post-apocalyptic world is slight amount of decay or 20,000 years worth of decay, it doesn't matter. It just creates an interesting landscape. So visually, it's fun, and in the terms of gameplay, it's fun.
And it's set in the Pacific Northwest as well, which I believe is your guys' backyard. What was it like kind of creating that world for your game?
So for us, it's about the high desert. So yeah, it's in Central Oregon, but the entire Pacific Northwest, if you're east of the Cascade Range, is high desert, and that basically means extreme. So it's extreme weather. In fact, the day before we left, it was like, oh, it's starting to snow, and it's starting to rain, and now it's sunny, and that can all happen in the same day. And then the biomes are very, very compressed. So we live right outside of the Badlands, which is like a stretch of desert, and then if you go to the west just 20 miles, you're in an alpine forest, and they have everything scarred by volcanic activity from millions of years ago. So we have all these great volcanic peaks and caves and tunnels, and it's just it's like that's the high desert, and I haven't seen any games that have been set there.
All right, so for those watching who might have missed out on it, when can people play Days Gone?
February 22nd.
And thank you so much, John and Jeff, for coming up on our stage. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have, but I hope you have a great rest of E3 week.
Thanks,
and good
guys.
luck with everything from here on out. And if you're watching from home, don't go anywhere. We will be right back with Total War 3 Kingdoms. We'll see you then.